5 days after Donald Trump won the presidential election in 2024,
these are our friends. We have thousands of friends on this.
His son, Don Jr., got a new job as well, as a partner at a little-known private investment fund called 1789 Capital. And since the election, the companies in that fund have won billions in federal government contracts. Leading up to Trump's second term, these are what Don Jr. and Eric's estimated net worths were, respectively. These numbers have changed drastically in the 2 years since, and I want to talk about it. Because we found that when you follow the money far enough, it stops going out and instead moves in a circle. By the end of this video, we're going to add it all up, and the number is going to shock you.
When Trump announced he was running again, Don Jr. found a partner, a man named Malik.
Together, Malik and Don Jr. started building a fund that could convert political access into financial returns the moment the power was back on their side.
When you have a businessman at the top of the ticket, people want to do business. That's what this is.
America's open for business.
100%.
It's called 1789 Capital, and it's a private investment fund, which basically means a pool of money used to buy stakes in companies. Because he's not a federal employee, there are no rules that require Don Jr. to stay away from government decisions that could benefit his investments.
Are there any investments or ventures you would not get into because of conflict of interest?
Yeah, I mean, the Trump organization itself wouldn't be doing direct deals with government entities because that's not what they do and it's not what we have. But we're going to play by the rules, and it's as simple as that.
Eric is in the picture, too.
In February 2025, both brothers became advisors to a company called Dominary Holdings. Through Dominary, they bought stakes in a U.S. construction company called Skyline Builders, using a shell company called American Ventures. Skyline then merged with Kofkaz Capital, a mining company sitting on a tungsten deposit in Kazakhstan. Tungsten is critical to military equipment like armor-piercing ammunition, hypersonic weapons, and F-35 engines. The sons invested in August 2025. 1 month later, Kazakh President Tokayev personally told Trump he was awarding the project to Kofkaz over competing bids from China and Russia. Trump and Marco Rubio gave direct assistance, according to the company's own investor presentation filed with the SEC. The project has since secured up to $1.6 billion in U.S. government-backed financing. And we've only just scratched the surface. The Trump sons also co-founded crypto and Bitcoin companies that attracted hundreds of millions in investments from foreign governments.
And I'm incredibly proud to be part of the crypto industry.
More Perfect Union reported on this crypto network in a previous investigation.
Criminals in the crypto industry.
Now I'm going to walk you through a few more companies and what happened to each of them after 1789 Capital invested. And I'll add it all up right here as we go. In July 2025, 1789 invested in a company called Hadrian Automation. Hadrian was founded in 2020 and had no significant government contracts. 8 months later, it won a $900 million Navy contract to build automated submarine factories and an $80 million Army contract. That's $980 million total, all to a company that had never won a major government contract before Don Jr.'s fund invested in it. Here's another one. Firehawk Aerospace, whose entire government contract history fits in a single line. It had just one contract in 2022. And then 1789 invests, and suddenly they're winning Air Force and Space Force deals worth $8.9 million, plus a land gift in Oklahoma. And sometimes the perk goes beyond the money. 1789 invested in Reflection AI in 2025, and by May 2026, it became one of only 8 AI companies in the country allowed to deploy inside Pentagon classified networks. And the pattern keeps going. Here's a company called Anduril that makes the autonomous weapon systems that define modern warfare, like drones and AI-powered surveillance towers. And after 1789 invested in June of 2025, the company won a $367 million border surveillance contract and a $23.9 million Army deal. It also has a potential $20 billion, yes, billion with a B, Army consolidation deal in the works. So big a number that it totally dwarfs everything else on this list. But we can't even count it, so I'll just do $367 million plus $23.9 million. Anduril's founder, Palmer Luckey, has been a Trump supporter since 2011.
I don't know if you know this, but I was actually one of the true Trump OGs. I wrote a letter to Donald Trump when I was 15, telling him that he should run for president.
But of all of these, there's one example that stands apart, because this is one where we have proof the White House directly intervened. Vulcan Elements, a 3-year-old startup with 30 employees that makes rare earth magnets. In August 2025, 1789 invested in Vulcan as a part of a $65 million funding round. 3 months later, the Pentagon gave them a $620 million loan. Rare earth magnets are vital to military technology, and as the name suggests, they're rare. China has complete dominance over the industry. Both Democrats and Republicans have tried to change that, so Trump isn't the first to consider a loan of this sort.
But a House Oversight Subcommittee found something different.
It went out without competitive bids, without the technical disclosures that are used to verify whether a project is even viable before public money goes in. That was waived.
The push for this loan came directly from Peter Navarro, Trump's senior trade advisor and a close personal friend of Don Jr. So close that Don Jr. visited Navarro in prison and was one of the few people Navarro's latest book was dedicated to.
He's a friend, legitimately can't believe that this is happening to him.
One Pentagon employee told ProPublica that the call came, quote, from the White House, "We have to get this done." Staff worked late nights for weeks to push the loan through, when deals like this normally take months. At the time of 1789's investment, Vulcan was valued at around $200 million. After the Pentagon loan, the valuation jumped to nearly $2 billion. Technically, this one's a loan, not a contract, but it's still $620 million of our tax money going to a 3-year-old startup with fewer employees than your local Target, with no competitive process and a phone call from the White House to push it through. So I'm gonna count it here. So it turns out the fastest way to win a government contract is to put the president's son on your board. I want to bring us back to Eric because this is where things get really egregious. PowerUs is a drone company that both brothers invested in. And in April 2026, it won an Air Force contract to sell interceptor drones. How much was never disclosed. Then there's another drone company, Unusual Machines. Don Jr. is an advisor with a financial stake in the company. In October 2025, it won what its own CEO called, quote, the largest government contract in the company's history. The amount was also never disclosed. Unusual Machines signed a $5 million supply deal with PowerUs. So, government money flows to PowerUs, PowerUs pays Unusual Machines, Eric gets paid, and Don Jr. gets paid twice. It's a loop. This is the type of mechanism that helps Don Jr. go from $50 million to $300 million, and helps Eric go from $40 million to $400 million. The contracts don't go to them directly, but they do go to the companies, and they own pieces of these companies. So every government contract makes those pieces worth much more.
We understand what the administration wants to do because we helped craft some of that messaging.
So far, we've been talking about contracts we could actually verify where the dollar amounts were made public, and those we saw added up to about $2 billion. And this doesn't account for Anduril's potential $20 billion Army deal, or any of the portion of a $3.2 billion Golden Dome contract that Anduril is splitting with 11 other companies. And the fund is still growing, currently managing $3.5 billion in assets with a stated goal of $10 billion. Among the companies currently under review for another Pentagon loan is Unusual Machines, from The Loop. The same one whose CEO called their last government deal the largest contract in the company's history, and now they're in line for even more. And a new investigation revealed yet another hidden deal. Don Jr. secretly held a stake in a Texas oil refinery startup that received over $100 million from an Indian billionaire's company. So how is any of this legal? If a mid-level contract worker at a Navy base owns stock in a company bidding for one of her contracts, she would lose her job. She would likely face criminal charges too. But for Don Jr. and Eric, there's nothing. No law covers the president's children. There's no requirement to recuse themselves from decisions that benefit their investments. 1789 Capital doesn't have to disclose what it owns or who it's invested in. 3 senators wrote a letter in January 2026 flagging $70 million in contracts going to 1789 portfolio companies, but the letter was ignored. So Congress tried to subpoena Don Jr. to make him testify under oath about whether he benefited from insider influence.
Not long ago, House Republicans spent 2 years and millions of dollars investigating Hunter Biden on the theory that a president's son profiting from his father's office requires congressional investigation.
In this case, Republicans voted to shut down the hearing and prevent any further debate.
Hunter Biden, who magically became a businessman, When his father took office, he was paid by shady foreign companies to peddle influence and influence American policy. And that's not what we're doing.
But while Doge was cutting grants and DEI contracts, the Pentagon was handing billions to sole source contracts, meaning they just picked one company and wrote them a check. In this case, to companies where the president's sons hold equity stakes. They didn't eliminate waste, they just redirected the money to themselves. So what would it take to stop this? Senator Elizabeth Warren introduced a bill in 2017 that would require the president to put conflicting assets in a blind trust and stop his appointees from acting on matters that benefit his family's finances. It never passed, but it could. Canada has a federal conflict of interest law that extends to the Prime Minister's family. And even here in the US, Ohio and Massachusetts have laws that explicitly prohibit public officials from acting on matters that benefit their family members' finances. So where there's a will, there's a way. Just like the Trump sons getting rich by any, and I mean all, means necessary. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to support our journalism so that we can create more videos like this, you can join our membership program to get exclusive perks and members-only content. And if you have a tip, you can email us at stories@perfectunion.us.